This is TWiT.
Any of you going out to buy the iPhone 15?
Can I just say Apple has sucked all of the joy out of the new iPhone cycle. Like, remember when people stood in line and now they don't want the chaos at the stores, I get it. It's stressful for
So instead there's chaos online because I have to get at 5 a.m. Pacific. I was on the East Coast, thank God, so it was only 8 a.m. Get on the Apple Store on Friday and fight the server crashes. And finally did get an order in, but a lot of people didn't. This happens every year, don't they know?
They've got to be doing it on purpose. I promise you.
They're creating a virtual line is what they're doing.
Apple is not the best at software in the world, but they're not that bad, right? They're doing
don't
anything
forget, this is a company
on the Apple
that
website.
until recently used web objects for its website. So maybe they aren't the best.
It's honestly it's a great FU to the world. It would be a $3 trillion company, let your website crash.
Yeah. You're trying to buy a $1,300 phone, in my case, $1,600 phone? Not today, buddy.
Doesn't it make you feel special, Leo?
Oh my God.
It's like, that's the whole shtick.
I'm going like this. I just want to give you $3,000 right now. Can you please, I beg of you, let me. Nope.
I think some of the challenges, supply chains, they wait so late, I think, sometimes to finalize the product. And so once you end sort of the cycle and you're like, okay, we're manufacturing these, like, it takes time. Like, you're only gonna make so many. And remember, there were a number of reports that the Pro models especially were going to be delayed this year. Yeah. They weren't, but what it came down to is and it played out exactly as we expected, which was they're not going to be delayed, but they're going to have a small amount, and you're going to see in the first 10 minutes, all of a sudden the dates to get it are going to get pushed out back.
But that's different than the servers crashing. I give you that. It's
fair.
That's problems all around. It's problems all around. Let me just see. I'm going to try to order an iPhone.
I bet they turned down their servers right before they launched just to make it feel.
Don't be too fast. Let's see. I'm going to buy this $1,400 phone.
Don't be too eager to sell it. Just.
No Apple Care.
That whole shtick of
it's now November 7th.
Wow. Yeah. But Leo, that whole shtick of the Apple Store being taken offline, right before an event, they don't have to do that. That is marketing.
Oh, we're stocking the shelves. What do they have to do? They don't have to. No one else does that.
Look, I've got my 13 minis. I have about 10 of them in boxes. My wife recently went to China on a reporting trip.
You bought 13 iPhone minis?
I have 10 because then they didn't discontinue them as the best phone ever.
They did.
It's the best phone ever.
They did. They've discontinued them.
Sam, are you a Touch ID holdout?
I'm not. I'm okay with it. They're great phones. And my wife was recently going to China. She asked me for one of my wrapped phones because she wanted a clean phone to go to China with.
Smart, yeah.
And I told her, no, go buy another phone. These are mine.
You wouldn't give up one of your 10 minis.
Okay, now I'm just going to say what one of our hosts, Steve Gibson, who has the same kind of fetish, he has, for instance, I think a half dozen Palm 7s in his freezer because same thing. Oh, they're not going to make
the batteries healthy.
To keep the batteries healthy. So, Sam, I'm just saying, wrap those so there's no moisture, and then put them in your freezer.
I bet if you did that in about 10 years on eBay, you could sell them for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Perfectly preserved. It's on. I heard recently. Apparently, my Canon. So I don't throw technology out. So I have all my original digital cameras.
Oh wow!
And someone was telling me that apparently the kids these days are really into early 2000s Canon power shots.
Yeah.
They love the look and feel of them. And so they come back and apparently they're going for crazy prices. And so I'm like, that's good because I have a lot of them,
but
they're not preserved that well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tim, do you think that's is it part of the rejection of I'm going to post this immediately on Instagram? You have no way of, you take the photo and you're actually more present with a digital camera?
I think that's a reasonable thing. I think it's also just the reality is technology's gotten so good, it's just become fashion, right? Especially social media. Fashion goes in cycles. right? And so we went from a super res. By the way, the one thing I will say I thought was very cool from the announcements was a lot of the spatial camera stuff. That's pretty freaking cool.
Are you bullish on the Vision Pro? Are you bullish on that?
I mean, it's pretty cool, right? Like, I think that it's hard. All my cynicism aside, it's very hard to knock that part of what they're doing.
Oh, I knock it fully.
It is.
I knock it fully. That is a total waste. Just look what Mark Zuckerberg's done with $10 billion every year. It is such a waste of money, such a waste of effort. They've made a technologically beautiful thing that no one's going to buy.
Well, Leo, I think that's true on a multi-year basis. Here's what I basically say. One is there's a difference between the capture and the device. The fact that your camera is getting enabled with LiDAR and a bunch of other cool stuff that means you can capture things that were historically hard to capture. I mean, I think that in the future, just where we look back at photos from 100 years ago and we're like, these are very beautiful, but like, there's no, like, I don't have a sense of my great-great-grandfather. People are going to look back at our pre-LiDAR photos and say, wow, like that's beautiful. But
it was so 2D.
Leo, I'm gonna make a prediction, Leo. You are gonna try. You're gonna take a spatial video with the iPhone when you and Lisa go on an awesome vacation somewhere, and you're gonna come back and you're gonna do it in the Vision Pro, and you're gonna go, all right, I'm sold.
No, I think completely the opposite. In fact, I've bought the Ricoh Theta 360 camera, then the Insta 360 camera.
Those are so different than this, though.
But I have a 360-degree tour of the Roman Forum, walking through it with a guide explaining stuff. I haven't looked at it once.
Well, Leo, I think that's unfair. I love the Insta 360. Let's talk consumer products. I think it's an incredible product. I agree that the tour that everyone else has and is already on the internet is not that interesting in Insta 360, but personal stuff, things like that, the ability to kind of reframe and rezoom and pull the right stuff out. I'm a huge Insta 360 fan.
Yeah, I mean, that was my whole thinking is I can go back and edit this. And actually, that is the more interesting thing, which is to, in effect, turn it into a 2D movie. But you've been shooting everything all the way around you, and then you choose what to look at. So you can look around.
Well, that's the point. The point is that
it's the opposite of spatial, though. You're really going for a...
No, but you need the spatial to be able to do it. It's kind of like being able to, saying I actually think that it might be that you love the camera because it makes your 2D videos and your 2D photos dramatically better for the next 10 years, right? You don't need the Vision Pro to succeed for the spatial capture to make sense. Your AI stuff will be way cooler with more data, whatever. It's clearly the future. The Vision Pro stuff, the VR stuff, in the arc of history, eventually has to be true, right? But it might take a very long time, right? Like we're not close. That's what I would say.
On Apple, the feature you're talking about, Apple says you turn your camera sideways, so you're using the two lenses in the triangle that are on the top. This is only with the Pro versions, and then you take a picture. It's going to use both lenses. Just like your two eyes do, to not create a 360-degree image. It's not the same thing. It's going to create an image that has depth, kind of like, remember the ViewMaster? It'll be basically a ViewMaster. And God, that changed the world, didn't it?
I mean, I will say I've not been, I think at the last time I was on here, we were talking about VR, and I remember the Vision Pro was about to be announced, and I was like, and the timing couldn't be better, because VR has been such a non-starter,
right?
And metaverse has been such a crash and burn.
It's like I'm last to the party and everybody's already gone.
But I do think so. Having tried the Vision Pro and done the demo, the thing the only thing that really had the emotional reaction was those spatial photos and videos.
Okay.
Like
you've seen them. I haven't seen them. I don't know what it looks like. So you've seen them.
So that's the thing. That's the must see that everybody, when these things come out in Q1 and you put it on and you go do a demo, the one thing you have to see, the one thing that's really impressive that has the most kind of emotional impact is all those photos and videos. And when you see it, you immediately think, or I did, and apparently, Apple, the team that worked on this at Apple had the same reaction when they first saw one of their members of their team did one of these spatial, had a couple little kids, like toddlers, and like it had an emotional reaction to everybody on the team. They're like, we have to put this in the product. And when I saw it, the first thing I thought, like it was emotional. I was like, man, if I had this when my kids were little, or if I had this when I went on, this trip or something, to be able to go back into that moment. Because it's more like stepping into a memory than it is looking at a photo or a video.
Right. And look, I think if you look at the history of this stuff here, like this idea that that video is super compelling in these environments is not new, right? If you go back 10 years, the original Oculus was all about, and like you can be live at the concert and all this stuff. But I think is kind of bullshitty, because the reality is I'd rather see the edited thing with the director choosing the views and whatever. That's because at the time, the capture side was too hard. If you wanted to do that type of capture, you're using a crazy rig with like 15 GoPros and re-editing it. It was impossible.
Or $60,000 camera. Yeah.
So unlocking and putting effectively a camera that's capable of producing that data in everyone's hands, right, in the next few years, I do think actually unlocks it, which is I don't care about the concert in that format, but I do care about my kids swimming in the pool and that. And, am I going to review every moment of their lives? Of course not. But having, the highlight reels and be able to pull it back and do that kind of reminiscing, I think it's inevitable. And like the tech is very cool, is what I would say. So the carbon credit's not so much, but I actually am. That will be, if I end up getting off of my kick for old iPhones, it will be because of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, he has 10 iPhone minis in his freezer. It's an amazing thing.
Well, they're not in my freezer yet, but they will be.
They should be.
Talk about carbon neutral. What's going to be the carbon impact of me freezing 10 phones for a decade?
In Korea, they have kimchi freezers. You can have an iPhone freezer.
There you go. It's like a kimchi freezer only for technology.
Actually, there's kimchi fridge, but there you go, iPhone freezer.
So this is actually the most interesting point I think I've heard about the Apple event, is this single ability to do spatial stills. They're not videos, spatial stills. And of course, it would make sense that if you're going to sell a product like the Vision Pro, you've got to get going on making products people can use to create content for it. And maybe this is
it was the opposite. Sorry, Leo. It was the opposite. They announced spatial video. We're assuming it's also spatial photos are in it, but they announced that spatial video coming to both Pro and Pro Max.
Oh, it was video. I misunderstood.
It was.
No, coming to the Pro, but the camera, when you turn it on its side, you're taking videos with those two lenses or stills? I thought it was stills.
Video. They announced spatial video. That's right. They did.
Okay. I misunderstood. Yeah. All right. But really, I think Sam and I are saying stills are what you want.
Well, I want video too. I mean, video, it's all the same. I mean, hard to argue you want video. The whole point is more immersive, and you only want stills.
Okay, fine. and you're right. I do remember, Jason Hiner, people who were playing with the Vision Pro. There were a few things that they kept talking about. One was the monster coming out of the closet, and the other was watching Avatar. It's the idea of this. You're wearing this thing, but it feels like you're in this 3D environment.
Right. And I will just say again, the monster coming out of the monster coming out of the closet in Oculus 1.0 a bajillion years ago was a shark demo. The shark came out of nowhere. Oh my God, there's a shark. It was really stupid, but people really liked it. Right. And the immersive video was, there's a music, you can go stand on stage with some music artists. Those are not the wrong ideas, right? The question is just how many years does it take to get them to the point where those are actually the experiences people want? And then how much content, where do you get the content from that matters? Because again, I don't think, the actual music video is going to be better than you standing on stage with the band in VR.
Okay. Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. ACI's new cyber skills is training for everyone on your team. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit. Twit listeners will receive at least 20% off or as much as 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise Solution Plan. The discount based on the size of your team when you fill out the form.